Christine Kearney has a decade of experience in managing high net worth client portfolios. As an expat and business owner, she embodies the proactive, forward-thinking ethos of her firm, Venga People. Founded in 2022, Venga People stands as a fully remote boutique private client advisory firm dedicated to providing specialized tax advice to high net worth individuals, business owners, executives, and entrepreneurs across the globe. She is an All-Ireland chess champion, an avid reader, and eternal student. Christine believes strongly in the power of manifestation and intentional living and believes this is the key to creating a life of success and happiness. What would you say is the biggest challenge for you?
I'd say the biggest challenge for me probably is, first of all, time management in a way, even though I do fit in the things I want to in a day, but I probably spend too much time working, more time than I should. But then at the same time, you do sacrifice that. You're saying, okay, well, I'm building a business, so maybe that's just what I have to do. So time management, I probably could be a bit better, and try not to work at the weekends at all anymore and to see how that goes. Because it's unfair on the people around you as well. I mean, you're maintaining relationships and everything, and you're just constantly talking about work or doing something to do with work. So it gets a bit boring, I'm sure, after a while. And then the other thing, I suppose, would be like being maybe like self-critical, like, being anxious about things, because it's still pretty new for me. So, I might have, like, I find especially, if I go on holidays or something, I think I took 2 weeks off, proper weeks off this year. And when I came back, I was so anxious. I thought my business is not going to be there when I come back, even though it is, and it was. But you just tell yourself like that you kind of have to be checking in and nearly on all the time, or it's going to disappear. You feel like you always have to be on. And then, that would be, I suppose, the main thing really. And just feeling like you're not really doing good enough, even though, like, in reality, I think you probably are.
How do you manage being overly critical of yourself? And maybe what's your advice for others who struggle with self-doubt?
I think with the self-doubt, I think there's difference between like being critical on yourself and self-doubt, because I think self-doubt you can overcome by taking, setting yourself small goals or objectives and achieving those, because you can build confidence over time by just achieving the things or doing the things that you say you're going to do. And that's very much in your control to build confidence. Whereas I think being critical is kind of different. I wouldn't say that my criticism is self-doubt. It's more that I should be doing better, or I should be doing more. And it comes back to, I suppose, kind of reminding yourself that you're not in a rush. Like, who are you racing against? Who's setting all these goals? It's probably you setting arbitrary goals that don't really matter, or you're being influenced by what other people have or what other people are doing. So I think the criticism always comes from comparing yourself or your business to other people rather than from what you're actually doing.
Yeah, I love the idea. So what you're saying there with the small goals, setting them for yourself as well, you're actually building a sense of momentum. And something you said was is liberating, the word I want to use. Like, you set the goals. It's your business. You don't have to set something that's so lofty that it's unattainable to get to. You can actually set small things, and just when you do that, you're just reinforcing to yourself, like, I'm able to do this, or you're just building that sense of momentum.
And definitely, like, thinking days or weeks, not months and years. Like, say in the morning, okay, what it is I want to do today. And even if you just achieve that one thing, that's it. If you achieve the one thing every day, that builds up into 3 years of achieving the goals you set out, or whatever it is, and you'll have come so far in that space of time.
You mentioned around falling into this comparison trap, and I know there's a quote that definitely comes to my mind is, comparison is the thief of joy. How do you stay focused on your own journey and not get caught up in what others are doing?
I think it's really hard to avoid doing that because of social media and like you constantly are seeing what other people have and are doing. The solution is becoming self-aware, becoming aware of why you're feeling a certain way. So if you are being very critical on yourself, or you're not feeling good about what you're doing, have the awareness to say, well, the reason I'm not feeling good about that is because actually I'm taking too much notice of what other people are doing. I don't know if there's an answer to not ever compare, but it's more about being aware of it, aware of the fact that you do it, and kind of snapping yourself out of it and reminding yourself again, you're on a different journey, or you're on a different timeline, or they might be years ahead of you or months ahead of you. Everybody's journey is going to look different.
I think we can go all the way back to your marathon practice. Did you say it was Emma that you were doing the
Yeah.
practice with? We actually spoke in yesterday's podcast around rivalry and how it could actually be used to your advantage. So it sounds like in that aspect, when you were speaking, it sounded like you used each other to push each other on and motivate. And I
Yeah.
think you could apply a similar context to other people's business. And I gave examples yesterday that sometimes I look at someone who has a particular skill in my work, or if it's to do with like their communication skills, and my first reaction is like, fuck, I'm so jealous. Like they are so good at what they do. Like I want to be that good. And then you internally think about it and you just ask yourself, okay, how are they so good at what they're doing? What are they doing? How much time do they dedicate? What do they specifically dedicate into their time? How can I learn? How can I adapt or take some of their skills and try and adapt it and use it myself as well? So I think you could go two ways. I'm sure if you look at a business and you're like, oh, I'm never going to get as good as that person is. But if you look at it through a different lens and say, what are they doing well? How can I apply it to me? Can just make it a little bit more easier to manage, I think.
Yeah, I think so. And I think you're right, because I mean, if we didn't have those feelings of, oh, I want what that person has, or how, yeah, like you said, how did they do that? I think, well, for me anyway, I need to see something happen or see someone else has it to say, okay, well, if they did it, I can do it. But like, how do I do it in my way? So how do I get to that? I think it's really important to identify people that are ahead of you and have more than you have, and not look at it in a negative way or a jealous way, but actually say, okay, they've done it and now that means I can do it, but how do I do it, rather than turning it into kind of being jealous of the person. It can be a motivational thing.
Yeah, and you have to do it in your own authentic way. I think that's kind of in line with your beliefs and your values, and too, depending, obviously, like it's very dependent. There could be a lot of different things to do, but yeah, you can't always just copy and paste someone else's formula. It doesn't always work like that.
Doesn't work like that.
Yeah. This podcast would be absolutely huge if that was the case. So, Christine, I guess my last question before we wrap up is, I'm curious to know, without anyone directly managing you, like, how do you stay motivated? How do you stay disciplined in terms of your routine with your business?
I think it's like you just have to do it. I mean, if I just didn't work tomorrow, or got up and said, actually, I can't find my motivation to work, then who's going to pay me? I mean, how am I going to support myself? Like, to me, for me, I mean, I really don't want to go back into employment. I mean, don't get me wrong, if like the perfect opportunity came up that was working with someone else, or something working in a company I really believed in, even more than my own, or bringing my own into that, then fine. But you have no choice but to do it, because you are depending on yourself. I have 2 other people depending on me that I pay every month, and you can't disappear, I suppose. Plus, I think you have to be a certain type of person to build a business in the first place, and take on that challenge. And typically, I think if you are that type of person, you're never going to want to let yourself let it go. So, you rely less on motivation, because, I mean, there could be 2 or 3 days a week I wake up that I'm like, oh, couldn't be bothered now, but you just force it, like you tell yourself that you can't listen to that emotion, basically, and you just go out and create your to-do list again and just tick the things off as you do them. And then just do it. You just have to do it. I know it sounds so cliche, but there's no magic recipe. Even the days you're not motivated, you just have to say, and tell yourself, you're going to feel better by doing this. And, by yourself. I think it all comes down to self-awareness. Like emotion, you can't always believe how you're feeling.
Yeah, and I think it's an interesting concept you brought up about motivation. Like, motivation is fleeting. It's not always steady. Like some people maybe have different variations or levels of motivation. Yes. But I think the person who's always just solely motivated and is driven by just pure motivation, I think is perhaps an anomaly or a unicorn. It's not most people, like this app is specifically geared towards health. If everyone was always motivated all the time, we wouldn't have half of the health difficulties that we do have as well. So I think it sounds like you're bringing in a framework of discipline and consistency, even when motivation might be waning a bit.
The only other point I want to say on that as well is, sometimes you have to be hard on yourself. Like, when you're not motivated or you're feeling lazy and you don't want to do anything, you just simply have to ask yourself, is this the type of person that I want to be? You know, what's the do I want to be the type of person that shows up every day to work and does my best and does the things I want to do, like, you know, keep on top of my physical fitness? Do I want to be the type of person that's active and has a nice, strong body or whatever it might be? And remind yourself that that is the type of person you want to be, even though you might not be feeling motivated in the moment. That's definitely, you know, taking a higher look at it, and really questioning why you're not doing the things you want to do.
Yeah, and that ties very nicely back to when you were saying you did the 1 year without alcohol as well, and you were doing the journaling portion. You're really doing kind of deep, insightful thinking into who you are. I think that is the piece that will keep you going in those moments, right? You've done that work. You know your beliefs, your values, what you're connected to, what you want to be. What you know, I think it's
Yeah. Yeah,
probably the
yeah,
best.
and I think you don't like find yourself in things that you do. You create yourself. So, you know, I don't believe in this, like, we're all, you know, very lost touch with ourselves, or we don't know who we are. It's because maybe we haven't actually stopped to think, okay, well, who do I want to be? Because really we can be whatever type of person that we want.
Yeah, I love it. Instead of waiting for this epiphany moment and, oh, I've
Yeah,
arrived, I know who I am, you're actually
yeah, that's not
cracking towards and doing some introspection.